our next panel, we will actually continue on the theme of education, but maybe take it a little bit further up the ages a little bit. It is called Developing the Next Generation of Talent for the Industry. It will be led by moderator Charlotte Pook, who is a talent acquisition manager at Electric Square in the UK. She's worked within talent acquisition for more than 7 years, and she's also a mentor for BAME in Games and Into Games. Please welcome on stage Charlotte and her speakers Raymond John, Paul Pulis, Martina Caruana, Francesco Sapio, Renato Carvalho, and Charles Theuma. Take it away.
Thank you so much. Hi everyone, I'm so excited to be here today with these incredible speakers we've got on this panel. We're obviously speaking about something which is obviously close to your hearts as well, as you're here today to hear about developing the next generation of talent for the games industry. Now it's quite obvious with next door being bustling full of children this morning and yesterday, so I apologise if I'm a bit croaky. I am starting to lose my voice from chatting away to these enthusiastic children. It has been incredible, and as Ivan said, they are really asking some questions that I never thought I'd hear. You know, they're so far advanced with their education, it's incredible to hear. Now, obviously, fantastic introduction to me. I don't need to introduce myself, which is brilliant, but I'd love to kind of explain where we're from. So I am from Electric Square. We are a co-development company. We provide gold standard quality training and provisions for amazing publishers out there. We have worked on games such as Battlefield, Sniper Elite 5, Need for Speed, you name it. We're those guys that come in and support them. So we're really excited about developing more talent in Malta, where we have just opened a brand new studio. So that is why we're here. Also, my first time in Malta. So thanks for those lovely suggestions of what to do for the weekend. Now, with further ado, I don't want to introduce everyone myself, because I would do no good qualities and justice to where they've come from. I'd love everyone to explain where they're from and who they are and what they do, if that's okay. Martina, I'll start with you. Thank you.
So I'm Martina Caruana. I'm the director of the Institute for the Creative Arts in Mostar. It is one of MCAST's institutes. And our remit is a very broad remit, so we cover various aspects of the creative arts, including those which relate directly to the Playcon context. So we have programs ranging from levels 1 to 7, but those which are most pertinent to here are the level 4 advanced diploma in digital design, which is a revamped program based on industry feedback, and which includes a stream on game art. And then we also have advanced diplomas in creative media production, which relate to the aspect of broadcast. And both programs have follow-up programs at higher levels, so they feed bachelor's degrees in related areas. So we have a bachelor's in creative media production, a bachelor's in game art, and a bachelor's in interactive media. That is where we stand now, but obviously our vision goes beyond that. Thank you.
Thank you. Charles?
My name is Charles Theuma. Probably many people know me here. I am the principal of St. Martin's Institute of Higher Education. We have pioneered the concept of game education. In 2005, in conjunction with Goldsmiths College of London, we introduced our first bachelor in creative computing. Since then, creative computing has stopped as a specialization because it has spawned mixed media, virtual reality, artificial reality, the issue of user experience. So today, our students read for level 5 and level 6 degrees in different specializations. So we got that creative computing encompassing field and split it up into smaller and more specialized areas. One thing that we do is we mix the artists, the audio engineers, and the programmers within one cohort. So we do not separate students, because we know that all these graduates have to work together in a studio. So we run our programs, we try to mimic how a studio would work, so that they'll be able also to communicate and understand each other's problems when they will be at the place of work.
Thank you so much. Raymond?
Well, good morning, everyone. Really happy to be here. So yes, I'm Raymond Yan, and I'm with DigiPen Institute of Technology. We have been involved with interactive technology training for over 30 years now. I'm one of the old guys when we started back in '88, and I've also been fortunate to be one of the founding members of a first-party development team for Nintendo. They established a team outside of Japan for the first time, and I was the head of art and design. So DigiPen has a number of degrees. We are focused very much, of course, on computer science, the fine arts and animation, music and sound design, computer engineering, and game design. So, obviously we're hitting all the main pillars of the industry, and been very, very successful. So we have a campus in the United States, in Seattle, which you may know is a huge hub for development. Microsoft is there, Amazon is based there, probably over 300 companies, major companies, Valve, Bungie, you name it. So very much in the center of that. And then in 2008, we opened a campus in Singapore. And with the support of the Singaporean government, we now are part of a university there called the Singapore Institute of Technology. And through the Singapore Institute of Technology, students are able to come to DigiPen sort of at a subsidized rate, similar to if they were going to a national university in Singapore. And then a couple years later, we opened a campus in Bilbao, Spain, which is operational now, and doing very well. And currently, my new project is I'm working in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So the kingdom is undergoing a tremendous amount of transformation. There's a big push to diversify the economy, to change the quality of life there. So they're addressing all the major sectors. They're looking at entertainment, they're looking at education, they're looking at, again, diversifying the economy. So the last year and a half, I've been there operating a small game studio. And in the kingdom, there's no game companies, very few, and no real schools. So to try and accelerate the process as we stand up our university there, I ran a small game studio, and instead of bringing a lot of people from the outside, we hired 50 apprentices. And so we took a strong apprenticeship model. I brought a very small team of industry leaders to help me, technical, art, design, and we basically threw them in the fire. And part of a KPI was not only to train them, but to actually launch small indie game studios to start the ecosystem there. So government of Saudi Arabia is very, very aggressive about this. They just recently announced a few weeks ago their national strategy for esports and gaming. It's like a $38 billion initiative that they are going to push, and they have big numbers that they're trying to hit by 2030. So it's a very exciting time, and again, I'm very pleased to be here.
Thank you so much. Francesco?
Hi, everyone. I'm Francesco Sapio, the founder of Red Oak Studio. It's a company that deals with video games development, and we also do related fields such as virtual production and metaverse, that shares a lot in common with the gaming industry. And I'm also the leading engineer in Axon Park, which is a platform for pooling learning games within the metaverse. Myself, I'm also very involved into education, so teaching younger generations how to use tools to develop video games, in particular Unreal Engine.
Amazing, thanks. Renato?
Hi everyone, good morning. I'm Renato Carvalho. I'm from the University of Malta, specifically from the Institute of Digital Games. We do state-of-the-art research on game development, game AI, and we have been putting out there all the talents for the industry. We have been spinning off lots of companies that started in our institutes to the game development world, especially in the Maltese industry. And yeah, we'll talk a bit about the students. We have master's and PhD program. And we had record high applications for this year, which is incredible and shows that there's demand for education in the sector, especially in our island.
Amazing, thank you. And Paul?
Yes, hi. My name is Paul. I'm the Deputy Director of the Institute of Information and Communication Technology at MCAST. And we offer a number of programs spanning from MQF level 1 to MQF level 7. All right. The programs include areas such as computer systems and networks, cybersecurity. We also tackle the front of software through a number of programs, targeting the front end, the back end, and the full stack, and mobile apps development. All right. Apart from that, we've got a specific tier oriented towards digital games development. All right. We are also constantly looking for collaborations with the industry, and we obviously look forward to have you, reaching out and hopefully, collaborating in terms of these wonderful sectors. We also offer apprenticeship schemes, all right, so that our interns can benefit from the wonderful experience and the environment that you provide. And we're always trying to innovate as well through research efforts as well. Okay. Thanks.
Amazing. Thank you so much for those introductions. Now, obviously, we've got some incredible educational facilities in Malta with us today. And my first question, if it's okay, it would be to Charles, Martina, and Renato. And if I can start with you, Martina, just because you're close. How have you recognized the needs of your students, and would you like to see further changes in your educational establishment?
Okay. I would say that the needs of our students and the needs of the industry, I think, go hand in hand. So I don't think we can divorce the two. And we've seen that by adjusting our programs and aligning our programs more closely with industry needs, the students are on board. And in fact, I can say that our students, we've registered a significant increase in student numbers this year, especially at level 4, the advanced diploma level, which is very encouraging. And I think it also corroborates very well with our vision to have students engaged in the sector at an early stage. Mr. Felletti mentioned get them young, catch them young. And I think that's extremely important. So the fact that they're joining us post-secondary, just after having left compulsory education, and they definitely have a 5-year, journey with us, means that the formation is going to be a solid formation. Challenges there always will be. And I think that because it is such a developing, continuously developing area, we cannot allow ourselves to fall into ruts. So we need to be constantly open to the feedback we get from industry, and naturally, engage learners as part of this process as well.
Thank you so much. And Charles,
Yeah.
how do you feel that you've recognized the needs of your students?
Yeah. Obviously, in the early days, we had to get out of the country. There were no studios here. There was no vision for them. So we needed to go out of the country, started to learn more about what, especially in the UK, was happening. And we were very lucky that there were quite a number of students who were ready to take this particular career very early, a jump in the dark. And today, one of them is actually here, has his own studio. So initially, it was through the benevolence of academics and people working in British studios who were guiding us what we needed to do. In the past decade, when the industry started, because there's also a big overlap, maybe some people here will say unfortunate overlap, between the online casinos. The skill set, there's a great overlap there. So we have very good contacts. Many of our graduates end up in this industry. And having good alumni will give you feedback all the time. What I'm doing well, what I'm not doing well. And what I'm not doing well, I try to fix it so that it will fit in to what we have to say. But one last point I want to make is this, that one thing that we always seek in our industry partners is not what you want today, because what you want today, we should have started working on 5 years ago. We need to know, and we need to work together, what you are going to need in 5 years' time. Because that's where we get students. They spend 3, 4, 5 years with us, and when they graduate, that's where you want to grab them. And you want to grab them, it's a moving target. You want to grab them with the skill set, with the knowledge that you would need not today, but in 5 years' time. Sometimes I have companies who come to me and tell me, so can you give me 30 graduates? Oh, yes, I can, if I can draw them on a piece of paper. Because our graduates mostly would have signed contracts in their second year of the degree and not in the final year. They go for internships, they enjoy the place, their employers like their skills, and they sign a contract, go and finish your last year, and then come back to us. So it is very important that we are forward-looking as academics and education establishments.
Perfect. And Renato, how have you found it at the University of Malta?
Yeah, just to complement what my colleague said, obviously we need to be closer, as much closer as possible to the industry. As a talent manager yourself, you know about the challenges of recruitment. And specifically at our institute, we're very focused. There's a big group of scientists on AI research on gaming to address some of these issues that the industry sees about talent acquisition and how AI can complement this difficulty on the video game industry, how AI can help the industry to not suffer so much about the lack of talent out there, but also creating talent to put it out there and have human resources available. But yeah, I believe just close contact to the industry, hear feedback, and have our alumni also coming and talking to the current students about what's happening in the industry, how they got into the industry, and what do they need there for now and for the next 5, 10 years, as we're talking about technology. So.
Amazing. I think they all sound like very familiar points that I hear quite a lot from education. Hopefully, us industry folk will make better allies and come in and speak to the students a little bit more. I know we're very keen to do that in Malta, as we have been in the UK, Singapore, and Leamington Spa and Brighton as well. So, obviously, some great points there. Now, Raymond, I've got an interesting one for you. As a global educational facility, I'm keen to know how the challenges differ from location to location. Now, we've got interns ourselves right now in Singapore from DigiPen. So do you find that there's a difference between location and location, or do you feel like it's an industry-wide, the familiar points that are coming up, are they industry-wide in location?
I think there's maybe two things that are notable. I think one of the biggest challenges is that, because of the popularity of games, the kids, they're so familiar with it that there's just a general lack of understanding of how difficult it is to make video games. And so when we're accepting students into the program, and especially at the beginning, when we started the school back in '94, one of the first challenges was everyone thought, making video games means we're going to get to play lots of video games. And, so the challenge ultimately became trying to find people that were really informed. And I think this is the problem everywhere we've been. So what we've done, we created something called the DigiPen Academy. And the idea was that we would penetrate into the K-12 system. So we actually have programs that start with kids, very exploratory, so that they can learn a little bit about programming, about art, about, and not only about the sort of the subject, the direct application to games, but trying to make connections to the academic study that they have to do in school. So they realize, oh, I guess I have to learn math. Oh, I guess I have to learn physics. I have to learn how to draw. I have to learn how to paint. I have to learn. So those types of things, all the way from kindergarten, the students are able to explore and understand all the way up to the high school level, where we have this preparatory program now where we take college-level content and we work with the Department of Education. Every day for the whole school year, high school kids come to DigiPen to study in the track of computer science or art. So this whole effort is, we teach thousands of kids. And what we found is that that has helped not only to get the kids to understand, to become informed about the types of things they should study, but also the nature of the work. Like you said, you create a studio environment. So when you put these kids into a team project, they have dreams of making Halo, and you're like, no, we're going to start with Pong, right? We're going to start with a very basic game. And they realize bringing all those elements together is already difficult, but then you have the added layer of having to make it fun. Right? And you have the challenge of having to deal with these other people in my group who are not listening to me, and they're not doing their job, and so all of those soft skills, those things help those kids become more informed, and it helps families become more informed, which is the other big part of it. In the U.S., it's pretty easy at this stage. It's a very mature industry. There's a lot of the education piece has been there for many years, so the families understand that. When we go to Singapore, again, different kind of situation because the family are like, go study math, go study math. Video games, that's not an industry. That's not a, what are you doing? Yeah. So, you're dealing with that an ecosystem where also the male students, when they finish sort of the high school level, they actually have to go serve 2 years in the military. So whatever they've learned, it's kind of like now they're out digging trenches, right, for 2 years. So there's that challenge. And, Spain, we deal with a cultural challenge, again, where it's even harder to convince the families that this is a real type of career, real kind of job. So now I'm stepping into the kingdom where video games is a huge thing, but very much because it's a multi-generational kind of environment, the students, I want to do it, but they often sort of need the blessing of mom and dad, of grandma even, right? And because they go home and they face mom and dad and grandma, it's they all live together. Yeah. So there are definitely challenges as we look from region to region, and that's been part of my interest as I've met people at this conference. It's like, okay, what is it like here? Do the families try and drive, okay, everybody go be a doctor, go be a lawyer, go be something, or in the industry, are they discouraged? So I think those are just really interesting areas. But, at the end of the day, what we try and convince, and this is the last thing I'll just mention, is that to the families and all these naysayers is really that the things that they learn in trying to build games, because the games are so complicated, in a way they're climbing sort of Mount Everest of software development. And so at DigiPen, I can tell you that even though the students initially come to us for game development, about half of our graduates actually don't go into game development. They end up going into other sectors. So in the US, at our campus, Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook, SpaceX, they're picking up people like crazy, including myself. Like I have a pretty big family. I have 7 kids. And all of my sons have gone into software development. Only one of them actually is working in the game industry. He's at Santa Monica Studios. The rest have gone on to Amazon. And so to tell the parents, there are these other areas, and you should really try and be open-minded about it. Yeah.
It's really interesting to hear, because I find the parent subject come up quite a lot, and something that we sometimes see is even putting webinars to parents now to show them that it's a lucrative career.
Yeah, it's not convincing the student, it's actually convincing the families.
Thank you so much. Francesco, now we know Malta is the center of excellence when it comes to using Unity. Although I know you primarily use Unreal, I know you have good experience with Unity. Why do you feel Unity is such a popular tool amongst young learners? Do you think there's a reason?
Yes, of course. This is actually a very interesting question, especially, as you said, to ask to an Unreal Engine developer. But that's my opinion is, about 10 years ago, Unreal was very focused for enterprise industries and not very for small realities or indie studios. And Unity instead was there as an alternative, approachable by almost anyone, and also relatively easy to learn. And Malta probably was like 10 years ago, small enough compared to US. And so developers start picking up Unity, and then you start having like a feedback loop. So more people get into Unity, then the Unity just gets taught, and new developers start to forming, and then studios start developing like experiences in that software. And so on and so on. In years, you just build layers, and then Unity becomes like a very strong culture within this environment. On the other hand, also in my opinion, I think now Unreal is getting more approachable. So 10 years later, making a change is like a cost for companies, of course. Mindset, forming new developers, finding talented in Unreal. But I think now it's also like a good alternative for small companies to think about Unreal, especially in this reality here in Malta that is getting bigger and bigger, and so I start competing with more larger in larger countries, and so definitely I believe that Unreal and Unity have both good opportunities to be used to create amazing experiences, and ultimately it comes down to what a company wants to create, and what matters is like the final product.
Thank you so much. Paul,
Yeah.
how has MCAST been able to support and nurture the next generation of talent, and how have there been any processes you've put in place for this?
Yes, there are a number of processes, of course. Just like all the presenters said here, games are very complex. All right, there are several facets that need to be tackled. All right, when you're developing these artifacts. All right, and so there is the lower aspect. All right, of things that kind of are the foundations of games. All right, that need to be focused. You need to build up focus on those. All right, those are the core skills. And just like everyone mentioned, there is a mathematical element to it, logic. There's several factors involved. So part of the process for us would be to gauge the skills, all right, and see what these new frameworks bring about, all right. And we would also like, obviously, get proactive and iterative feedback from the industry partners. So typically we would, come up with new proposals, all right, for our programs, all right, and we would then discuss these with interested industries to determine, obviously, the relevance of these skills. So these mechanics are very important, all right, and we're always kind of trying to improve, all right, and innovate in this particular aspect. Then there is also, the research aspect of things as well, where we kind of tackle higher end kind of concepts, all right, which kind of combine things such as AI and so on and so forth.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Now, this is something that I struggle with myself. I mentioned this to you earlier on, Martina. Imposter syndrome. I don't know if anyone else has ever felt that in the room. I know I certainly do sometimes. And it's just about, attacking that and how we can make sure that students feel ready. So we obviously find imposter syndrome cropping up across the board. And especially I find with artists questioning their skill sets, their portfolios, whether they're good enough, whether they're ready. Now, how would you think that they might be able to tackle imposter syndrome, and how MCAST might be able to do that for the students?
Well, I think that the very fact that there is a formal education which is recognized in itself helps to somewhat overcome that syndrome to a greater or lesser extent. But I also think that a colleague of mine here mentioned transversal skills. And I believe that the development of transversal skills is crucial as part of, the formative process. We're not only looking at technical aspects which need to be developed, and we're not only looking at our learners becoming skilled on a technical level, but they also need to learn to learn. They need to learn to be critical thinkers, and those are skills which one learns as part of the program itself. For example, if we look at peer review as part of the learning experience, the fact that students can be critical of their own work and the work of others, I think that is something which can help overcome that. Another point where there isn't the aspect of formal learning, or it isn't so overt, is the aspect of recognition of prior learning, whether it is experience or even certified learning. I think that element of recognition, which is something which MCAST also does, over and above what has already been described by my colleague and what I mentioned earlier, is also something which I think should counter that problem.
Yeah, help them a little bit. Oh, well, that's great to hear. Kind of you recognise that and ways that you can support the students there. Renato, I've got a question, obviously, of how University of Malta best supports the students when they struggle with their soft skills, so such as preparing them for interviews after university, team leading and presentations. I often see them not quite ready for interview. How do you best prepare the students for that?
Yeah, that's a very interesting and tricky question. Obviously, there's the classroom sort of push to have our students having those soft skills, but also in education. I'm sure everyone that went to a university here remembers mostly about their social experiences, even more than the technical aspects of what you learned. And this is what we try as a university, have our students, to have the social interactions, the group projects, go through stress, go through deadlines, know how to communicate with other areas of the university. So we try to be as much multidisciplinary as possible. And nowadays, anyone can learn anything on the internet, but there's a difference on being on campus and having the social aspect, which is very, very important, as it is for big companies now, such as Apple, Google, Meta. They don't have offices anymore, they have campus. And this is where we see our students developing the more critical societal aspects of their professional life as well. So that's why it's so important to keep pushing the education on universities and campuses and so on.
Thank you so much. Now, obviously, as closing, we've discussed quite common across the board here about children and spotlighting that there's a career for them in the games industry. Now, I'm hearing your echoes, and it is very, very unanimous that industry needs to be involved with education, and we need to build that relationship in order to show the children what is possible, where to go, how to find those educational facilities, or alternative ways into the industry, whether that be apprenticeship, internship, and ways of support. So thank you so much today for echoing how we feel, and the collaboration between industry and education is so important. And thank you so much for your time today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.